Why does this small piece of plastic feel different from cash? It's the same money, but it doesn't feel the same. Payments can feel different depending on method. Some payments vanish instantly, others leave a trace. Different payment methods can be registered differently in the brain. Why do some purchases feel lighter than others? This little rectangle seems harmless, but why? Cash hits the senses, cards hit the mind later. Payment methods are processed at different speeds in the brain. Tangible payments register differently than abstract ones. Recording numbers doesn't always change the perceived weight of spending. The act is the same, the experience is different. Our minds react in ways we rarely notice. We feel spending differently, even when the amount is the same. Cards influence perception of money differently than cash.
We check prices casually while grabbing breakfast. We scroll through purchases almost automatically. Small decisions happen quickly with little thought. Small transactions are often less noticeable to the brain. We see the cost later, but not always immediately. Some people pay with cash, some with card. The feeling differs. The number changes, but the sense of spending lags behind. Payments can feel almost invisible. We notice less when the action is abstract. The timing of swipe and charge can create a perception gap. Sometimes the numbers don't feel connected to the act. We act, then notice in different moments. We carry them, but rarely feel them in our hands the way we do cash. The delay changes perception. We know we spent, but our senses don't always catch up. The act is quick, almost automatic. Cash feels heavier, more immediate. Cards keep the memory lighter, numbers detached from hands. Our brain notices differently depending on the method. And that difference shapes our daily choices quietly. Cards are often used in everyday transactions. Card transactions are often experienced differently than cash transactions. We assume the method doesn't change how we spend. Many believe swiping is just a simple exchange. We think the mind reacts the same as it would with cash. Card transactions are perceived differently than cash payments. The real cost may not register immediately. Convenience can mask awareness. The belief that all payments feel equal isn't always true. We trust our cards, but our minds react differently. Observations suggest perception may vary with different cards. Observation and numbers reveal that perception often lags behind action. Observations show that perception of transactions differs depending on method. Action and later recognition can occur at different times. Gestures and motion influence attention. Abstract transactions often mask the effect. Repeated payments can be processed with less immediate awareness. Physical absence or digital methods reduce immediate sensation. Cognitive recognition often trails. Different payment methods shift perception. Tangible money feels heavier than abstract numbers. Distance between action and awareness shapes how the mind integrates spending over time. Repeated actions reinforce abstraction, affecting timing of perception. Hands know more than eyes, but awareness follows after. Tiny transactions accumulate quietly. Abstract numbers and repeated actions subtly shape spending perception. Larger transactions can be perceived differently when not physically handled. Subtle mechanisms quietly modify attention and awareness during daily spending. Payments leave a subtle psychological trace. Cognitive recognition follows action. The mind integrates spending more slowly than the swipe occurs. The mind often registers consequences slower than the action itself. Digital payments abstract experience, creating a mental gap.
Different methods shift how the brain interprets spending. The mind distinguishes tangible loss from abstract deduction. Immediate sensation is muted, but not absent. Distance between action and awareness influences perception. Even small transactions create mental separation from cost. Cognitive recognition follows the swipe. The act is simple. Recognition follows later. Repeated clicks reinforce abstraction over experience. Patterned behavior masks immediate perception. Physical interaction registers differently than cognitive awareness. The same amount can feel lighter depending on method. Tiny payments add up before awareness notices. Abstract numbers delay perception of cost. Direct payment creates immediate sensory feedback. Repeated abstraction shapes perception of spending weight. Even bigger transactions feel lighter without tactile feedback. Numbers on screen separate experience from reality. The brain tracks value differently when hands don't engage. Subtle mechanisms shape daily spending behavior. Transactions feel lighter though the total remains unchanged. Abstraction quietly modifies attention and awareness. Every payment has a psychological footprint, often unnoticed. The separation between action and sensation is constant. Even repeated micropayments accumulate subtly in the mind. Cognitive recognition trails actual spending. All amounts share the same lag in perception. The mind integrates action and consequence more slowly than the swipe occurs. Perception of each purchase may differ from actual value. The convenience masks subtle accumulation. Eventually, the numbers appear. The effect is quiet, persistent, unnoticed at first. Repeated actions may be perceived differently than the actual cost. The mind separates the immediate act from delayed awareness. Small payments quietly accumulate. The effect isn't dramatic, just continuous. We notice later, often after the fact. The separation shapes everyday decisions subtly. Accumulation occurs without immediate sensation. The mind processes differently than the hands. Studies show that emotional response can vary with payment method. Small differences in perception can be observed over repeated transactions. Transactions can be perceived differently from actual value. Repeated actions accumulate faster than awareness. The separation shapes the rhythm of daily spending. The impact is gradual, often unnoticed. Subtle differences add up quietly. The action feels easy, almost weightless, yet the totals are real. Small, repeated actions are associated with variations in perception. Perception and reality move at different speeds. Observations show spending perception varies with payment method. Perception of payment may involve different cognitive processes depending on method. Cognitive processing often follows the act of payment. Research indicates that perception of transactions can vary with payment method. Immediate sensory response can differ between payment methods. Subtle differences in perception can be observed over repeated transactions. Cognitive recognition and the act of payment can occur at different times. These observations illustrate how perception can vary in financial actions. Perceptual response differs when money is handled physically versus abstractly. Perception of monetary value can differ from the physical handling of money. The timing of perception may not always match the actual payment. Some payments are registered more slowly than others in cognitive processing. Abstract payment methods engage cognition differently than physical money. Temporal or physical separation can affect perception of spending. The sequence of action and cognitive awareness may differ. Observations suggest that perception can influence subjective experience of transactions. Subtle differences in perception are consistently observed. Cognitive recognition frequently occurs after the payment action. Changes in perception develop gradually rather than instantly. Cognitive processing and actual payment can follow different temporal patterns. Subtle differences in perception can be noted across repeated transactions. Small payments may be processed with less immediate sensory input than larger ones. Repeated transactions can lead to gradual accumulation in cognitive tracking. Card use can introduce temporal or cognitive separation between payment and recognition. Observations suggest that temporal or cognitive distance can influence perception of payment. Perception of spending varies depending on the context and method used. Patterns of perception in financial behavior can be observed over time. Each transaction leaves observable cognitive and behavioral traces regardless of sensation. Cognitive recognition and action often occur at different times. Subtle differences in perception can be consistently observed. Perception can vary independently of the amount spent. Card payments may be processed differently cognitively than cash payments. Cognitive perception and physical action may affect the experience of transactions in different ways. Different payment methods engage perception in varied ways. Observations show that physical handling and cognitive processing can provide different information. Every transaction leaves cognitive or behavioral traces regardless of sensation. Patterns of spending behavior correspond with variations in perception.